Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, this part of lecture we will discuss the canons of taxation. We discussed earlier in part of this lecture that the government levies taxes in order to finance its expenditure, and these taxes can be of different types. The types will be taxed later on. In this part of the lecture, we will discuss how the taxes are levied. The first principle, the first canon of taxation is the canon of equity or ability. This canon was given by Adam Smith. All citizens of the nation should contribute toward the expense of the government as nearly as possible in proportion to their respective abilities. This means that everybody should pay tax, and this tax should be in proportion to their ability to pay. Means that the rich people should be taxed at a high rate, while the poor should be taxed at a lower rate. In other words, the tax system should be such that citizens are liable to pay taxes as per individual capacity to pay. The rich are expected to pay more, while the poor are expected to pay less. The ability to pay taxes increases with rise in the income, thus making the higher income class to contribute more to the government revenue. Means that according to this principle, the rich people should be taxed more, while the poor people should be taxed at a lower rate. The second canon of taxation is the canon of certainty. According to the Adam Smith, the tax which each individual is bound to pay ought to be certain and not arbitrary. The time of payment, the manner of payment, the quantity to be paid ought all to be clear and plain to the contributor and every person. Thus, the amount of tax, the time of payment, the method of payment, the place of payment, and authority to whom the tax is paid should be clear to everyone. This should be clear to the. This should be clear not only this must be clear not only to the person who is paying tax, but also to the state. The third canon of taxation is the canon of convenience. It was also given by Adam Smith. In words of Adam Smith, every tax ought to be paid at the time, levied at the time. Every tax ought to be levied at the time and in the manner it is most likely to be convenient to the contributor to pay it. Means that a tax should be levied at a time which the person who is paying tax find it convenient. When the land revenue is collected from a farmer after harvesting season, it is quite easy for him to pay the tax. But if it is collected before harvesting season, it is most troublesome for him, or it is inconvenient for him. In other words, if a farmer is taxed the land revenue after harvesting this crop, then it will be convenient for him. Instead, it is levied, it is collected before the harvesting season. Similarly, the sales tax, in another example, excise duty or taxes on commodities satisfy the canon of convenience, because when the public purchase the commodities, they simply pay such type of tax. Income tax also satisfied this canon because the salaried employees in the monthly installment paid. The employees in the public sector and private sector, they are charged tax when they get the salary. If the tax is collected before the payment of the salaries, then it will be inconvenient for the employed people. So this means that the income tax also satisfies the or tax on the salaries also satisfy the canon of convenience. Canon of economy. It has been noted that every tax to be so contrived is both to take out and to keep out of the pockets of the people as little as possible over and above what it brings in the public treasury of the government. Means that according to Adam Smith, the cost of collection should be low. The tax system should be economical to operate, and system should be such that cost of its collection is minimum. The revenue of tax should be much more than the cost of its collection. Otherwise, the major proportion of the tax revenue will be taken away by the cost of collection in the form of salaries or other type of the taxes. Canon of simplicity. This is another guideline for the imposition of taxes for the states, that a tax system should be simple, so that the taxpayers are understood the taxpayers should understand that system, and it should not be too complicated for them. The tax policy should be simple and to the point. The better tax policy is simple one which requires fewer conditions or assumptions. The canon is being to prevent harassment to taxpayers and corruption among the staff of tax administration. The tax system should be easy to operate. Everybody should know how to pay the tax, where to pay the tax, and the calculation of way of the computation of the tax should also be very simple. Canon of elasticity. This is another canon of the taxation, that the taxes should not be rigid but elastic, and should so that in case of emergency or in case of deficit or in case of surplus, the government may bring about a variation in the tax rate. Canon of productivity. Productivity has come a key issue with the tax planners. Economic growth has come to firmly linked with the gains in the productivity. The canon of productivity requires that taxes imposed by the state provide sufficient revenue so that the government may not be required to face the financial difficulties. Thus, a tax system should be capable of providing adequate revenue to the state to enable it to perform its functions satisfactorily. The tax system should help to increase productivity in the economic sectors. Canon of variety. Under diversification, a multiple tax system is preferable. A government which adopts variety or diversity as a growth plan seeks to enter into a new tax system and processes. According to this canon, a multiple tax system should be preferred instead of a single tax system. A single system is one where only one tax to be levied upon a person. He is to pay the state only one tax, thereby tax collects all that a person has to pay to the state. This will enable the state to distribute burden of taxation on every section of the society. Such a system is bound to breed a lot of uncertainty for the treasury. On the other hand, if a tax revenue comes from diversified sources, then a reduction in tax revenue from one source will not be a burden for the state. Thank you very much, and these are the references. You can give reading to these sources, watch these resources in order to get the details. Thank you very much.